Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be doing a video on skepticism and conspiracy theories. Often, when you hear about skepticism outside of a philosophical context, a skeptic is someone that doubts conspiracy theories, like the claim that 9/11 was an inside job or the claim that vaccines cause autism. The skeptic is someone that attempts to disprove claims of supernatural powers or the like. However, someone might also be considered a skeptic if they doubt common beliefs, such as the claim that the Earth is round. In this video, we're going to look at both of these positions, the position that conspiracy theories are wrong and the commonly accepted theory is correct, and positions that conspiracy theories are correct and the commonly accepted position is an elaborate deception. And based on both of those positions, we're going to look at why both of them should be, in order to remain consistent, philosophical skeptics and doubt either explanation. Let's take a look. So, first let's talk about a position I'm going to call colloquial skepticism. These are people who doubt conspiracy theories and assert commonly accepted explanations for phenomena, such as doubting the flat Earth theory and asserting the theory that the Earth is round. The central tenet of this position is that your beliefs need to meet a certain burden of proof. Specifically, that those that hold this position claim that commonly held beliefs meet this burden of proof, perhaps due to scientific consensus, personal experience, or intuitive sense, while conspiracy theories do not. Basically, this position says that you need to meet a certain burden in order for me to accept you. Conspiracy theories don't meet that burden of proof for whatever reason, either if that's because authoritative figures haven't presented them, or their arguments seem inconsistent, or they don't have a basis in science, what have you. There's some reason that they haven't met that high burden of proof. And the colloquial skeptic is going to claim then that other theories have met that burden of proof, and so we should accept those other, more commonly accepted theories and not accept conspiracy theories. On the other hand, we have conspiracy skepticism. Conspiracy skepticism doubts commonly accepted claims due to the possibility of systematic and pervasive deception. They might doubt that we landed on the moon and assert that NASA is engaged in systematic deception. The central belief of this position is that systemic, often government-driven deception is possible. From this, they conclude that we should accept alternative explanations, such as that the moon landing was staged. Any critiques of their explanation are written off as part of the conspiracy to cover it up. If you believe that the government is sufficiently powerful to be able to cover things up or influence everyone's beliefs about something, you might be a conspiracy skeptic about the commonly dictated line. You might think that, well, maybe the government has more control over the news media than we think, or maybe the government has more control over scientists than we think and the papers that they publish. Maybe the government just has control, perhaps, over things that the government said that it does and is able to keep the people involved in those projects quiet for whatever reason. If you think that that deception is possible, you might be a conspiracy skeptic. Now, philosophical skepticism, on the other hand, which is the position espoused by this channel, is the position that we should doubt both claims. We don't have enough information either way to demonstrate that anyone's correct about these things. In the position of philosophical skepticism, both of the positions have gotten something right, and both of them have gotten something wrong. As much as these positions seem to be in conflict, you can embrace both of the intuitive central tenets of them and not be inconsistent. You're just a philosophical skeptic. If you think that beliefs require sufficient proof, and you think that there might be a possibility that we're systematically deceived, either by a supernatural being, by a government, by a corporation, or by each other, you can hold those without contradiction. It just means you're a skeptic, and a skeptic as in a philosophical skeptic. But, in fact, if you hold either of those positions, you are going to be a hypocrite unless you end in philosophical skepticism. And here's how we're going to show that. So we'll start with colloquial skepticism. So the colloquial skeptic fails by not subjecting commonly held beliefs to a sufficiently high burden of proof. Simply because a belief is common, let's say belief in God, it doesn't mean that such a belief is certain or justified. Just because a belief is presented by an authority figure, it doesn't follow that such a belief is true. Relying on testimony is notoriously flawed, as many courts have shown. There are a range of legitimate philosophical objections to things like scientific realism, in the form of the problem of induction, the problem of underdetermination, as well as some more perhaps colloquial versions of skepticism along the lines of, are you certain that your science teacher wasn't wrong? Are you certain that that Wikipedia article actually is citing a real source or wasn't just edited by someone? Even if you're confident that the scientific method is sound, you may still be worried that the information you're getting is flawed for some other, more mundane reason. Unless the colloquial skeptic can show that their own beliefs meet a high burden of proof, which isn't something that can be shown in the face of a lot of the problems with scientific realism. They are simply privileging those common or perhaps their own desired beliefs over uncommon or undesired ones. If you think that knowledge requires a high bar of proof, you should subject your own beliefs to that high bar, not just the beliefs of others, as the philosophical skeptic does, or risk a charge of hypocrisy. The conspiracy skeptic, on the other hand, fails in the opposite way, by thinking that the only commonly held beliefs could be subject to systematic deception. If the claim that the earth is round might be a systematic deception, so might the claim that the earth is flat, or that the external world exists at all. If you believe that systematic deception is possible, it's just as possible that you could be systematically deceived about the truth of the conspiracy theory as the commonly held belief. If you think that systematic deception is possible, you have no reason to believe that one belief structure is more prone to such deception than another, because your very conclusions about those belief structures could be subject to that systematic deception. The only thing you're basing that on is your own biases. Perhaps you distrust government, so you think that the government is conducting an elaborate deception, but you trust corporations, so you'd never suspect that they would institute an elaborate form of deception in the opposite direction. As before, to avoid hypocrisy in this situation, the only solution is philosophical skepticism, where you're doubting everything. Just because the party line can be possibly influenced by systematic deception, it doesn't mean that something that someone came up with that's an alternative to the party line isn't equally susceptible to that systematic and pervasive deception. The philosophical skeptic, on the other hand, does not have either of these inconsistencies, namely because it's hard to have inconsistencies when you don't have any beliefs at all. The skeptic holds the same high burden of proof for all beliefs, common or uncommon, presented by authority figures or not. Similarly, the skeptic is concerned about the possibility of systematic deception in all beliefs, not just for beliefs we disagree with. If you have either the intuition that beliefs need to be justified, or that you might be systematically deceived, you should be a philosophical skeptic if you want to be consistent. If you think that beliefs need a high burden of proof, why don't you wait until that high burden of proof has been met for any belief to hold it, instead of simply holding on to beliefs that you've had previously and never questioning or checking to see if they're right? And if you think that we could be systematically and pervasively deceived, then why try to grasp onto any conclusion at all, when any conclusion has the same possibility of that systematic and pervasive deception? Say, you know what? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm a skeptic. Do you consider yourself a colloquial skeptic or a conspiracy skeptic? If so, how do you defend applying either a high standard of justification or the possibility of systematic deception to only some beliefs but not others? How do you parse that distinction? If you're curious about some of the problems with scientific realism, I highly encourage you to check out my series on the problem of underdetermination and the problem of induction, which are legitimate philosophical problems for the claim, the philosophical claim, that science provides information about truth, as opposed to best explanations or maybe useful theories. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.